is
I wanted to just pause there, and I forgot to ask you for an example on the third one from Stoicism.
of doing something hard.
Yeah, like a
I mean, the Greeks trained in wrestling. The gymnasia was the central part of Roman life. You know, you'd go and you'd train. You know,
and what were they aiming at when they were training? What were the means?
a strong mind and a strong body, like to not be flabby and lazy and
Not to fight each other or anything, but to
no. But I mean, there's something about combat sports, you know, that I think is very primal and probably good for you. You know, just something about the challenge of pushing oneself, not living the sort of sedentary lifestyle. I think that's, you know, whether you're talking about Zen Buddhists practicing martial arts or you're talking about the Romans, you know, practicing wrestling. I think the philosophical tradition is it's wrong to think of philosophers as soft.
I always wonder if there's something innate in human beings that we're designed to need struggle. Like we're designed to, because if you think about, we're in a big building here, and with all this stuff that humans came up with, and the cameras that our ancestors just struggled forward to create all this stuff. So is it conceivable that they left something in me that says, you too shall struggle forward?
Yeah, you are an heir to people who crossed oceans, fought in wars, braved the elements, you know, lived through poverty and depressions, sacrificed, struggled, you know. They did all that. And you have that in you, you know. You have that in you. We all do.
And here we are ordering candy on
yes,
my
by a
phone.
robot. And going, the air conditioning isn't at the exact temperature that I want it to be.
And number 5?
Number 5, across all religious and philosophical traditions, there is some version of the practice of memento mori. Remember, you are mortal, that life is short. Talk about top of the list of things that you don't control, right?
Death.
Is death. And the acceptance and the submission to that fact, the awareness, the urgency, the perspective that gives you is one of the most essential philosophical practices there is. Like, why do we procrastinate? Why do we not prioritize our health? Why do we not do the stuff that we know we should do? It's because we think we have forever, you know, we think we're invincible. And it's only, you know, in light of a pandemic, call from the doctor, you know, a loved one suddenly going, that we get these brief moments of clarity that goes, oh, wait, shit, no, you can go at any moment. Marcus Aurelius says, you could leave life right now, let that determine what you do and say and think. Now, if he's saying that in a time where he buried 6 children, that's how deadly and unforgiving the ancient world was. And he was even then having to remind himself, hey, don't procrastinate. Don't think you have forever, you know, don't take life for granted. And here, you know, when the average lifespan is so much longer, like inconceivably long compared to the ancients, where, you know, you might never see someone die in your whole life until you are in a hospital bed. You know, we live in even more of a bubble. You know, we are even more sheltered. We are even more detached from the reality of our mortality. As they say, death is the only prophecy that never fails. Like, people think about, like, well, what would I do if I found out that I had cancer? Like, if you got a terminal diagnosis from a doctor, you go, what changes would I make? But the reality is, you do have a terminal diagnosis. Like, the second you were born, the doctor knew with 100% certainty that you would die. He just didn't know when. You know, it could be 8 years from now, it could be 8 decades from now. We don't know. But to live in ignorance or in rejection of that fact is to set yourself up, I think, more often than not, to waste your life. And so some practice of, hey, time is ticking by now in this very moment. How am I spending it?
There's a sound timer behind
Oh, there
me.
is.
That's just this there. That's,
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful.
serves to remind me of that very, very fate. Of all these things, Ryan, what is the Stoic wisdom that you continually struggle with the most?
Ooh. I think people think that Stoicism is about the suppression of emotion. That's what the word Stoic means to people, right? Emotionless, robotic, superhuman, etc. I don't think that's it at all. I don't think that's possible. If you're stuffing the emotions down, if you're pretending they don't exist, they do exist, and they will eventually reveal themselves. You've just deferred it, maybe with some interest attached, right? So for me, like when I'm feeling something, when I'm having big feelings, as we say to my kids, you're having big feelings. Well, why are you having those feelings? What is the cause of those feelings? What does your body feel like? And the practice of going, I'm feeling this because I'm feeling, as a result of that, an inclination to do, and then go, but is that a good idea? Is that what I want to do? Like, I've never lost my temper and then afterwards been like, I'm so glad I did that. I always regret it. Always, right? I've never forced my kids to do something out of frustration and then been like, yeah, that was definitely the right call. Afterwards I'm like, we had so much more time than I was under the impression we did. You know what I mean? It's like we get in this big fight to leave the house, and then we get there and then we're like waiting in the car 5 minutes to go in, or whatever, right? Like, or you're so stressed about missing the flight, and then you get there or you don't get there. And neither one of those things is like a matter of life and death, right? So I think for me, seeing Stoicism as the practice of understanding the emotion, processing the emotion, and then not being a slave to that emotion is the practice of Stoicism that I think I struggle with. But I think when you read the private thoughts of the Stoics, you see that they were also struggling with, people are frustrating. Things are annoying, things go sideways. But then how you deal with that, that's what matters.
And that's the control you have.
Yeah.
And it is a practice, isn't it? Because we all get frustrated with things. I get frustrated with so many things.
Yeah. Because you have high standards, you have expectations, wanting things to be a certain way, needing them to be a certain way. That's like the root of so much of the tension and problems that we have.
And the question I ask is why? Why do I need them to be a certain way?
Yeah, you don't. You go, I need everything to be a certain way, or I won't be able to do what I do. And then you're like, wait, how fragile am I that I can't adjust, I can't adapt? You know what I mean? Like it's because you can want it or request it, or you think you should have it. That's what sets you up. But Epictetus's thing is, he says like, don't want things to be a certain way, want them to be the way that they are. That is the path to peace.
So
and I think
true.
about it's like, hey, like if I wake up and I go, I need the weather to be a certain way today, well then there's a pretty big chance that I'm not gonna be happy. I was talking to my friend, his name's Shaka Smarties, the head basketball coach at Marquette. He lived in Texas. He was the head coach at Texas, and he moved to Marquette where it's colder. And I said, what's the weather shift like? I said something like, are you more of a hot weather guy or a cold weather guy? And he goes, I'm a dress for the weather guy. And I was like, that is Stoicism right there. Dress for the weather. Like I don't care what it is. I'm good. I'm good either way.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
I love that. And the conflict I have is the Stoics must have understood the importance of detail and small things.
Sure.
So,
yes.
That's why.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they also understand how that can quite easily rob you of that obsession to detail.
Yes. Yeah. Or like routine is important, right? This is the order I like to do things. This is when I'm at my best. But what if that routine becomes almost a religion, which becomes almost a kind of fragility, you know? That's the problem. Shit, fuck. What am I going to do? I need my special socks, you know, or whatever. I can't, no, I need 10 minutes before. And you're like, okay, you know, you're not diffusing a nuclear bomb here. Like, you're going to be fine.
Two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, it's better. Well, the Stoics say there's such a thing as preferred indifference.
What does
So
that mean?
basically the Stoics were like, if it's in your control, great. If it's not in your control, it's not worth thinking about. But they said there's still some things it's better to have than not have, right? Like it's better to be rich than poor. It's better for it to be, you know, nice weather, not nice weather, right? And so the idea is you're going to be fine regardless, right? So if you can go, I am good. I'm a dress for the weather guy. I can thrive in any and all situations, right? That's the first thing that has to be true. And then the second thing is to be true, which can be true is, but if you ask me what I want, here's the circumstances or situation that if it's in my power, that's what I'm going to choose. I don't need it. I can do great in any and all situations. But if you ask me, do I want it to be cold in here or warm in here? I'm going to tell you the temperature that I like. Because I know that if it gets too hot, then I start to feel warm and then I get distracted. You know, like you can know what it's nice to have, but not need it.
Of all the things that, you know, you've read about in Stoic philosophy and wisdom, if you were lying on your deathbed and you had the entirety of the world as the audience, and you could just say one thing that you believed would be of most benefit to that audience, to relieve them of their suffering the most, to leave them with one last statement from Ryan Holiday, drawn from his readings of Stoic wisdom and philosophy. What might be the insight, the last daily Stoic?
What would I say? It's sort of last breath. We know Marcus Aurelius's sort of last words. His last words in meditations are about sort of, hey man, this is the play. It only got 3 acts. The curtain's coming down. Did you do a good job? You know, sort of talking to himself like that. It's pretty beautiful. And then in real life, as he's probably dying of the plague, his friends are all around him and they're weeping and crying. And he goes, what are you crying about? Like, don't think about me. He's like, think about you. Think about your life. Go try to, you know, do what you can with the time that you have left. And maybe I'd say something like that. Like, hey, the one benefit of people dying is the one way that they can go on living after they die. One way they can improve us and help us after they're gone is the reminder of the fact that they're not here, which will be true for you at some point. And that's one of the things that the loss of people that we love can do for us. It's like, hey, none of us get forever. The song ends at some point. And so what did you do with the time that you've got? And the fact that you get tomorrow and I don't is a gift that you should not take for granted.
And to your kids?
I'd just say, you know, what I try to just say all the time, which is like, I love you. I'm proud of you. And you're good. You know what I mean? I think it's really easy, especially in today's world, for everything to feel like conditional, you know, that you got to earn it. And there are things you have to earn in life, you know, but a parent's love, a sense of worth, sort of dignity, value, that's an innately, intrinsically uh,